the biblical basis of healing in the Old Testament. Originally, man was created sinless and healthy in body, soul, and spirit. Death and its associated degeneration of the body entered the world as a result of the sin of the first man and woman, Genesis 3. But in this dark moment of history, the first promise of spiritual and physical healing was given. In Genesis 3, verse 15, Yahuwah said that the seed of the woman would bruise the head of Satan. This seed was a prophetic promise about Yahushua, who through his earthly ministry, death, and resurrection would defeat Satan. The Genesis record contains two accounts of divine healing. In Genesis 17, verses 18 through 19, Yahuwah promised to heal Sarah's barrenness. In Genesis 21, verses 1 through 7, this was fulfilled. Genesis 20, verse 17, records the healing of Abimelech. In the book of Exodus, disease and divine healing more clearly enter the biblical record. After the deliverance of Israel from Egypt, the people marched for several days without finding water. When they finally came to Marah, they could not drink of the water because it was bitter. God showed Moses a tree which, when cast into the waters, made the waters sweet. Following this, Yahuwah revealed himself as healer of his people. He said, "If thou wilt diligently hearken to the voice of Yahuwah, your Elohim, and will do that which is right in his sight, and will give ear to his commandments, and keep all of his statutes, I will put none of these diseases upon you, which I have brought upon the Egyptians, for I am Yahuwah that healeth you." Exodus 15, verse 26. A more accurate translation of this is, "I am Yahuwah, your physician." This indicates a habitual, continuing action. Because this promise was first given to Israel in a specific situation. Some say it applies only to them, that Christians cannot claim it. We must remember, however, that the names of Yahuwah are revelations of his nature and character, and Yahuwah does not change. If he was by nature a physician and healer then, he is the same today. Other specific references to healing in Exodus are the healing of Moses' leper's hand, Exodus 4, verses 1 through 7, and Yahuwah's promise to take away sickness from among his people, Exodus 23, verse 5. The book of Leviticus might be called the health care manual of the Bible. Yahuwah reveals regulations regarding the treatment of disease. For an example, see Leviticus 13, verses 1 through 46, Leviticus 14, verses 1 through 32, and give directives regarding healthy living. See Leviticus 15, verses 1 through 33, for an example. The book of Numbers records the healing of the leprosy of Miriam and Aaron, Numbers 12, verses 1 through 15, and the healing of plagues that affected Israel, Numbers 16, verses 41 through 50, and chapter 21, verses 5 through 9. Deuteronomy 28 is a very important chapter related to healing. It explains the relation of obedience to physical health. Other passages in Deuteronomy stressing this truth include Deuteronomy 7, verse 15, Deuteronomy 29, verse 22, Deuteronomy 30, verse 20. Manoah's wife was healed of barrenness in 13, verses 2 through 24. There are several records of healings and the book of 1 Kings. There are stories about a man with a withered hand in 1 Kings 13, verses 4 through 6, and the raising of a dead child in 1 Kings 17, verses 17 through 24. The record continues in 2 Kings with the healing of a child by Elisha in 2 Kings 4, verses 8 through 37, and the healing of Naaman in 2 Kings 5, verses 1 through 14. Study also the case of King Uzziah, capital Azariah, in 2 Kings 15, verses 1 through 12. From the healing of Hezekiah in 2 Kings 20, verses 1 through 11, we learn that Yahuwah can heal terminal illness and add years to life. See also 2 Chronicles 30, 2nd chapter, and 24 through the 26 verses, and Isaiah 38, verses 1 through 12 and 16. We also learn from 2 Kings 13, verse 14 and 21, that death comes to all men, even though the ministry of healing. A great prayer of repentance related to healing is recorded in 2 Chronicles 6, verse 26 through 31. 2 Chronicles 20, verse 9 promises that Yahuwah heals when we cry in affliction. In 2 Chronicles 16, you can read the story of Asa, A-S-A, who died because he did not seek healing from Yahuwah. His sin was not going to medical doctors, but ignoring Yahuwah and his healing power. In 2 Chronicles chapter 26, you can read about Uzziah's leprosy, and in 2 Chronicles 30, verse 20, of the healing of the people through the prayers of Hezekiah. The book of Job, especially chapters 1 and 2, permits us to see behind the scenes to identify the source of Job's problems, including his sickness. The book of Psalms contains many promises, revelations, and prayers concerning healing. Study the following passages. The book of Proverbs provides wisdom regarding healthy living. Proverbs 3, verses 7 through 8 explains how to be healthy. Proverbs 4, verses 20 through 23 reveals that the issues of life are affected by the heart attitudes, and that Yahuwah's promises bring life and health. Proverbs 15, verse 4 and 30 confirm that wholesome talk results in health, and Proverbs 16:24 shows that Yahuwah's word brings healing. Proverbs 16, verse 24 indicates that the word of Yahuwah brings healing to the bones, and Proverbs 17:2 reveals the physical effects of spiritual promises. Ecclesiastes 3, verse 3 confirms that there is a set time for healing, and Ecclesiastes 5, verse 17 demonstrates how sorrow and wrath are related to sickness. Isaiah 6, verse 10 explains the relationship between spiritual understanding, conversion, and healing. And Isaiah 19 and 22 confirms that when Yahuwah is entreated, he heals. Entreated means to ask earnestly and solicit pressingly. Isaiah 32, verses 3 through 4 is a great prophetic promise of healing being part of the kingdom of Yahuwah. Isaiah 33, verse 24, and Isaiah 35, verses 5 through 6 tells of healing during the millennium and how the inhabitants will say, I am not sick. In Isaiah 53, verse 5, we are promised healing and deliverance through the atonement. Isaiah 57, 18 through 19 encourages us to draw near for healing, and Isaiah 58, verse 8 confirms that our health shall spring forth. In Isaiah 61, verse 1, we learn that Yahushua was sent to bind up the brokenhearted. This speaks of an inner emotional healing. In Jeremiah 8, verses 14 through 15 and 20 through 22, The bitterness of sin is tied to physical illness, and Jeremiah 15, verse 18 explains how to deal with an incurable wound. Jeremiah 17, verse 14. Jeremiah 30, verse 12 through 17, and 33, verse 6 confirms Yahuwah is the source of healing. Lamentations 3, chapter 3, verses 33 confirms that Yahuwah does not willingly afflict. Ezekiel 17, verse 4, 30, verse 17, and 33, verse 6 confirm that God can heal and restore health. Ezekiel 30, verses 12 through 13 speaks of incurable wounds medicine cannot heal. Only spiritual healing can cure these types of wounds. Ezekiel 34, verses 4, 16, 21, and Zechariah 11, verse 16 contain warnings to shepherds, spiritual leaders who have ignored the sick sheep people. Daniel chapter 4 records King Nebuchadnezzar's sickness and healing. Hosea 5, verse 13 warns of the danger of going elsewhere for healing. And Hosea 6, verse 1 and chapter 7, verse 1 confirm that Yahuwah can and will heal both physical and spiritual conditions. Hosea 11, verse 3 records Yahuwah's sad words about Israel. They knew not that I healed them. The Old Testament record of healing closes with the promise in Malachi 4, verse 2, that Yahushua will arise with healing in his wings.